Hi, I'm Bonnie Krebs from Art Impressions here at Scrapbook.com, and I'm here to show you our newest watercolor releases. So those of you who have done this technique before, you understand this concept, and remember, this is a collection, so you're adding to the stamps that you have. And these, of course, are going to work with everything you already have. And for those of you who are new to this technique, you're gonna love this because this is for people who would say they're not artistic, but honestly, you can learn to watercolor. This is simple watercoloring just using stamps and markers and water. So I'm going to show you how to do it. We're going to start out with a really simple little project. So let's get going. So I'm going to show you how to stamp this little jar, this little decorative urn. It only takes a few stamps and just a few markers. So we're going to need a couple of things. So this is one of our newest sets. This is a set of these little jars. It's called the Decorative Jar Set. It comes with 4 and these little decorative motifs that go on it. We're also going to need something from Foliage Set 4. So this is another new one. We're going to use these 2 little vines and this one right here. Also from our original set, from our flower set, we're going to use the little filler flower right here. Okay, so let's get going. We're going to start out by stamping that basic image, and that's this little decorative urn. And we're going to ink it in 2 colors. So we're going to start out inking it in a dark brown. And I'm just using the side. You can see I'm using the side of my marker. Don't ever try to just do it like this, you know, with the tip. It's just much, much easier to use the side of the brush marker. And I'm going to go over it again now with another color. So this is a dark blue. So I've used the brown first, and now I'm using a dark blue. Okay, so now I'm going to stamp that onto my watercolor paper. So I'm using the Strathmore watercolor paper. And I'm just going to stamp it on here just like that. Okay, and you can see we have a really flat image, but we're going to change that just by adding water to it. So I dip my brush, this is really, really important, and pinch it off. Do you see how flat it is? It's super flat. So I'm going to pinch it off, and I'm just going to start out by pulling the color out of the lines. Just drag it out to the center. And you can see that this little jar has a rounded base. And so we want to make sure that we see a highlight there. So when we drag the color over, we don't want to drag it clear over to the center. We want to make sure that we leave that space so that we see the highlight in the middle. That's what's going to make it look like it's rounded. So super, super important. All these little rules. Some rules are okay to break and some are not. And this is one of those rules that you can't break. You've got to leave that highlight in the center. Okay, so let's go on now to the next step, and we're going to add some color now to this little jar. And I'm going to use a light blue now and just put a little bit of color onto my palette. I'm going to dip my brush, pinch it off, and take a little of this color. And I'm going to apply the color from where it's the darkest to the lightest. Just like when we pulled the color out of the lines, we want to bring it from where it's the darkest to the lightest, and that's to the center. And make sure, again, that you're leaving that space in the middle, that highlight. So we want these little projects to look like they're watercolor paintings. And so it's really, really important to do those little steps. So now I'm going to go back over it again. And you can see the more passes that you make, the darker it's going to get. The darker that color will get. And actually, the highlight just means no color at all. So you can even make another pass. Just make sure that the edge is the darkest. And you can see how that's really starting to look three-dimensional. So I'm going to add some flowers and foliage now into this little urn, and I'm going to cover up this little edge. I want these flowers and stems and everything to be inside the pot, so not hanging over. So I'm just going to use a little bit of Post-it tape here and just cover that edge. So just like this. This is the easiest way to mask off an area. So I'm just going to cover it, just the basic area. So now I'm going to ink my stamp, and I'm just using a green. It's just a dark green. And now I want to stamp things more than one time. So it's really, really important to stamp things over and over. So 1, 2, 3, at least 3 times. And I'm going to do that again on the other side. This is how we get a three-dimensional image. This is how we get things to look like they're watercolored. And you can always go back in and add a little bit more. Okay, so let's go ahead and remove this now. And we'll just take this mask off. And you can see I've got these little stems, these little branches now inside my container. So I'm going to take my brush now and just soften those lines. Just dab, just dab. We don't want to erase the image and we don't want to lose the character of it. We just want to soften what we've just stamped. So super, super easy. And you can see what a difference that makes just doing that one step. So let's go ahead and add some flowers in here now. And I'm going to use this really bright red and just ink this little filler flower. And I don't necessarily need to use the whole thing. I can use different parts of it. So maybe I'll just use 2 of it this time and do this one inside here. And maybe I'll just add one down in here. So you can see when I stamp that, I stamped it over and over again. So I'm stamping it on top of itself. So I get that dark to light. The dark, when we add the water, comes forward and the light fades back and we have a little 3-dimensional image. So again, I'm using my brush and I'm just stamping over the top. You could pull some of this color out from the side of the pot, kind of get a really nice little halo effect. And the more that you use these stamps, the better at it you're going to be. So let's add something else now into the background. So I'm going to choose another blue. This is a light blue. And I'm going to use these little branches, little leafy branches from the new Foliage set. And you can see they go different directions. One goes to the right, one goes to the left. So we're going to use them that way. And I'm just going to ink these. And again, stamp them in here. So now let's do these. And you can just ink up part of this too. So maybe you just want to get a little one down in here. And we are about finished. There's really only one thing left to do, and that is to sign and date. So be sure you do that. Be sure to sign and date because this is your own work, your own creation. And even though you're using stamps, every time you do these, they're going to turn out different. And they're quick and they're easy and they're super, super fun to do. So let's go ahead and put this on a card. So I have die cut my little watercolor painting now, and I've used our new oval die set, and you can see it has a double stitching on here, so it's created this little decorative edge. I've also die cut now a larger one to adhere it to. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm just going to use my tape runner here and just adhere my smaller little oval to my larger one. And then glue on my my stripes to my card base. This is from Echo Park paper pad set. I love it. I love the color palette. And there we go. We have a beautiful card to send, a one-of-a-kind original. You're going to make somebody's day if you send this. Thanks for watching. If you like this video and want to see more from Scrapbook.com, please like, share, subscribe, and leave a message. Happiness is life handmade.